Right, welcome back to Rickets Reef 140 update. This one's going to be just kind of a quick and dirty overview, but I think it's about time that an update was given. There's a whole bunch of issues why I didn't put up an update sooner, because I've been dealing with a lot of time constraints and problems regarding the tank. There's some delivery issues. There was a bunch of YouTube issues. I'll get into that stuff later on, but it's a good time now. Things seem to have been sorted out, and voila, we have water in a display tank, and we got some fish. So it's been about a week, just under a week, that I put water in the display and put the rocks in. I just reef-scaped yesterday to a scape that I think I like. I don't know, I think I like it. It's okay for now. My wife also was like, yeah, put that there. So, you know, she's got some say in it. It's got a lot of surface area for corals. The radion's not on right now. I'll show you the lights in a second. But here I've got two mocha clowns, they're called. They're loving their new tank. Now, I got those just a little over a week ago. They've been in quarantine. They're fine. They're tank bred. There's no problem with them. They're happy as Larry. There's never a problem with tank bred clowns usually. Like, they're fantastic. So they're in the tank. I've also been feeding this whole week since I put the water in, and then the rocks have been kind of doing their thing. So yeah, pretty good deal. Let's take a look at the system, how it's kind of operating right now. Now, there's a lot of tweaks that have to be done. This is still kind of the basics. There's a lot of little things that need to be sorted out. But in this area, we're going to have the refugium. The tank is in the quarantine area. I'll show you that in a second. Frag tank in like a year or so. Up here, I've got the power cord that connects the two power heads right there. So I've got the Coral Box RN Nano and the Quiet one. It's nice because they can talk master and slave to each other, and they can do functionality. And sweet feed mode, I can just press a couple buttons. Got some fish food there, got some nori, got some mysis pellets. I've got my baggie for my radion and instructions on various things. So it's kind of like a little area where I keep stuff that I use on a regular basis, as well as my 12-volt boxes here, which powers my two stealth computer fans. So like, if these ever die, I can just change them on the fly for like $5. I had those other fans, you might have seen another video. They're gone. They were just way too loud. The other thing that 12-volt box powers is LED strips I've put throughout the entire stand, which comes on when I disengage the magnet switch here on this door. So usually when I do something with the tank, I'm going to open up this big door first just to turn on the lights throughout the entire stand. The other thing that 12-volt powers is the linear actuator that lifts the hood. So this switch, when it goes up, the hood goes up, and when it goes down, the hood goes down. And then I also have the flap. So that's kind of this area. It's a bit of a hub. I'm sure it'll accumulate a bunch of crap throughout the years. And then down there with the refugium, maybe some kind of dosing area. Hello, clouds. I think there's a reflection there, so they're trying to fight their own reflection. I think that's what's going on. I don't know. Hopefully, in terms of corals, this is going to be like an LPS area, and I'm kind of happy they're in this area because I'm going to put a whole bunch of Euphilia there. So maybe they'll host in this kind of LPS Euphilia garden area. And then over here, I'm going to put probably caps, Monty caps and stuff like that, and then sticks, a bunch of sticks here. So that's kind of my coral plan. And then, you know, there could be just random stuff throughout the bottom. That's just sand or rock dust, which I'll be sucking up in my first couple water changes. It's just from putting the rocks in and moving it around. So let's check out what's going on down here. Here we got the outflows from the eShop overflow. Oh, I guess I should talk about that quickly. So I got the eShop's Eclipse overflow. Now, this thing has a design flaw. This is one of the tweaks I'm trying to sort out. It has a design flaw I'm trying to, work with. What it is so this external box sits lower than the internal box. The top of the internal box is up here, and it's got its teeth up here. So even if you keep the water level in this external box, like up at the top of these bulkheads, or even higher, top of the bulkheads is really all you need, there's still going to be a drop off on the internal box, which means you're always going to get a sound. The water falling is going to be a sound. Now I can see why there is a need to be a drop off, but it's quite severe. The emergency pipe that they give you is pretty short. It just comes to the top of these things. It should be just a little bit higher. So I might put an extender on that. Your secondary has to be, quite a bit higher than your primary if you're doing a full siphon on your primary, which I'm trying to get sorted with the gate valve here, and then I got a ball valve on that one, but it's just straight open. So I'm getting a little bit of waterfall sound from this overflow, which is not great. I'm sure I can tweak it out a little better, but it's a design flaw that's not fun. It could have been a lot easier. And then I've got unions on everything, so I can take things apart. So far, no leaks. It's pretty good. So that comes down here into my filter plate. I've just got this fake plastic cardboard stuff covering that because the socks create a bit of a sound. So with that on, doesn't make a sound at all, which is nice. Then I've got the D700 Plus Coral Box skimmer. This thing is a beauty. Like, this is super quiet, super powerful, working. I don't know, I'm only running it at half, and then the outlet is about half. So it's rated for a 240, and this is a 140. So it's a bigger skimmer than I need, but I like skimming. I like to skim. Bubbles are fun. Got my two heaters in the back, a 300 and 250. If you see up top, I've got a manifold. So I've already got the union for that will go to my refugium over there. Oh, speaking of which, I've got the refugium light already up there ready to go. So that's just a cheapy little Amazon puck thingy. Grow light, waterproof grow light. It's pretty cool. But until I get the refugium, obviously not working. I made a egg crate box, and it's full of ChemiPure bio balls and some small rock fragments from my Rockscape, which I'll probably use as frag plugs eventually. And then the bio brick there, bag of carbon behind it. There's my temperature sensor. This is the only thing that's not working, is that I got a cheap temperature sensor, and it doesn't work. This hose goes over to my auto top off, and that's connected to that float switch, which is governed by the Reef-Pi software and the Reef-Pi, which I'll show you in a second. My return pump is the DCP 4000. It works great. I had a second one. I have a 3000, which I had connected, but so this pump has like a whole bunch of functionality. It turns off when it's dry. It turns off when there's resistance on the impeller. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it can turn off. It's cool, but what was happening is the two pumps in tandem on this Y were creating resistance. So sometimes one wouldn't work, sometimes it would work, sometimes it was just finicky. I would do a whole bunch of power outage simulations to see what would happen when the tank starts back up, to see how the overflow would get going, to see how the return pumps would get going, to make sure everything works after a power outage, because that's a big issue. You want to make sure everything's functional after that, and it wasn't. So I had to take the second pump off. It's just now a backup. I don't need it. I was just going to run them both super low level. So now it's just a backup pump. The cool thing about having the 3000 and the 4000 is the exact same pump. The only difference is the controller and the power brick. So technically I've got a 4000 sitting in wait. As long as the 4000 controller and power brick doesn't break down, I've got another 4,000. If the power brick or the controller breaks down, I've got a 3,000. So that's how that works. There's that light for the refugium. So here's the return. It goes up there. If you can see up there, it returns through that lock line kind of thing. And that's pretty much it for under the stand and what's going to be happening. And then this side, dun, 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 my bird's nest. Yes, everybody has a bird's nest. And you know what I like about this stand and this bird's nest? I shut the door, I don't have to see it. I don't care if I got a bird's nest. I'm not going to mess with, I'm not going to sit there and try and make all those wires pretty. It's pretty enough. I know where things are, everything's labeled. I don't care if there's wires kind of just scraggling around. I don't care, it's fine, it's no problem. So this is connected to my Reef-Pi box, which is right there. These, one goes to one power brick, one goes to the other power brick. This does all my float sensors. I can add more on there. This goes to that broken temperature sensor, which I'm going to get a better quality one. But other than that, this is it. This is the Ecotech brick. This is the power in. Those are the two pies connected to it. And so speaking of pies, let's let me pause this and open the top. So here we go with the flap open. I don't have to raise the top every time I want to do something because I've got that flap and there's, you know, the inanimate rod. There's my panels. There's the Radion. Because it's on that trolley, I can kind of move it wherever I want. Yeah. So there's the lock line return. It's screwed in. I used a piece of the breadboard that I used for the, so I used breadboard from IKEA for the sock holders, and I had some left over. I got a little piece there that my 3 1/4 inch return line with the bulkhead is screwed into. And then on this side up here, I've got the power brick and the Raspberry Pi, and these are all the drivers that are running my LED panels. So you can see those properly there, but there they are. There is 12 bars, 5 channels, or sorry, 6 channels of color. 5 channels are blue, and then there's a couple, 3 purples, there's some whites, there's a green, and then there is a red and yellow. And I can dim those individually up and down. Right now what you're seeing is just my panels because the Radion is off. Now when the Radion's on, it's just a bit brighter where it's on. I might tweak that. I think it's just because my panels are dimmed really low, like they're super low right now. Like this is, I think this is 20-30%. I could just blow the hell out of this tank with light. So that is my aquarium. Voila. Cheap overview. In here, excuse the mess. But yeah, there's a couple messy rooms. There's this one. So I've got this is kind of my quarantine. If you see in here, I've got a bicolor blenny. He just sits in there. I've got 2 cardinals and 4 chromas, and they're doing good. So the way I'm quarantining is 3 days in one tank, 3 days in the next tank, 3 days, 4 times. And what that does is that breaks the cycle of ick. So as the parasites fall off and try and reattach to a new fish, they're moved, so they're gone, they're killed. Without having to use copper, I do it this way, and then I make sure I feed and they're eating well. So far they're eating great. The only thing is the cardinals really only eat frozen mysis right now. They're not really touching the flakes or the pellets, so that'll probably change in time. It did with my other pair of cardinals. Got this little blue LED thing here. This tank, this 20 tall, is going to be my refugium. I'm going to drill a hole in it, and it's going to go underneath. And here is the best thing ever, the water change station. So that bucket is fresh water. See, I've got the RODI kind of going in there. And got the float valve in there so it doesn't overflow if I forget it, and which is connected to this guy. And then over here I've got my mix bucket, so I've got actually some mix in there because I'm changing over the guys. So the way this works is I've got a valve to the bottom of each of those buckets. I've got a valve to the top of each of those buckets which goes down to the bottom and has an L. So when I want to put fresh water into this bucket to make salt water, I just turn that one on, that one's off, and then this one on, so the water will go from there. The pump will pump it up down into there, and it'll put it in there. So I'll fill it up to the level, and then I'll turn this one off and turn this one on, and then I'll put the salt in, and it'll mix through that loop. When I want to bring fresh water out to my ATO, which is under the stand, I would just turn everything off, turn this one on, turn this one on, and take this tube, which is connected to this union valve in this piece here, it's a 20-foot tube, and I just take it out there and fill it up. And the same thing goes for water changes. So I'll take water out, that tube I'll actually unscrew it, put it in here, run it into my shower because it's 20 feet long, just siphon it, do my water change, pull out my 10-20% whatever I want to do, and then I'll screw it back onto the water change bucket and turn the pump on, and boom. Eventually I will build a Pi for that room, so when I want to turn that pump on and off, I can just have my phone and be like flick. So I govern my Pi through my phone. Everything is done through my phone. So yeah, this room, it needs a tidy. This is one of the areas that is next to tidy. It's pretty haphazard right now. And then look at this room. This room really needs a tidy. So basically everything I was using to build the tank, I shoved in here so my wife would stop screaming at me that the place looked like a mess. So yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be tidying this. There's a lot of wires from building the Pi, random tubes. It's a hot mess in here. Yeah, I shouldn't show you this. Anyway, so that's the tank so far. Soon, a couple of more days, I'll be putting those other fish in. They'll help this tank establish and cycle and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually I'll be getting, the Tang gang to go in and eat all the algae and stuff like that. And then eventually, once those kind of guys are established and settled, then I'll be getting the corals and moving forward. But voila, here we are. I've got a fully functioning 140-gallon saltwater reef focused soon aquarium with 2 clowns. Right, later.